So we are now going to start with the unit 3 of your book. So let's begin with human health and disease. That is the chapter 8 of your textbook. That's the NCRT textbook. I think this is the topic which is the most relevant for us to begin, since we are not meeting because of some kind of a disease. So what is disease? Disease means dis-ease. That is, when you're not at ease, some kind of disorder is present. So, what will be the other way around? That is health. If there is no disease, that means we are healthy. So, there is a definition for health which includes that the health means we are physically, mental, and social well being of the individual. So, the health includes three aspects, that's the physical, the mental, and the social well being of an individual. All three must be there. Otherwise, the person is not healthy. Suppose you have a fever, but otherwise you're feeling okay, then you're physically unfit, mentally and socially, maybe you are fit. But suppose you are under stress, but there is no sign of physical discomfort, then that means you are mentally not fit. So, according to WHO, health means physical, mental, and social well being of an individual. Now, there are many kind of disorders or diseases which we may have. The first ones are genetic disorders. These disorders are due to some genetic defect or deficiency in an individual, and these are the inherited ones. We will not get them during our lifetime. The second type of disorders would be infections. That is the one which we catch from one to another. There may be many modes of infection catching, but these are the ones which we get during our lifetime. And of course, we are not meeting because of one type of infections, that is the coronavirus. Then the third type of disorder is the lifestyle disorders. These occur in an individual due to improper, maybe more, maybe less, of food, of water, of rest, of exercise. Any of these may lead to, maybe more also, maybe less also, may lead to the lifestyle disorders. So that is what we are going to do in this chapter. That is, we are going to understand some of the genetic disorders, we are going to understand some of the infections, and of course, some of the lifestyle diseases also. Now, basically, the diseases are of two types: infectious and non infectious. You already know that the infectious diseases are also, they can also be termed as communicable diseases. That is, the ones which get transmitted from one individual to another individual. Maybe the most common one is the common cold. That's infectious disease. Then non-infectious diseases which cannot be transmitted from one individual to another. For example, if somebody has a cardiac arrest, it is non-infectious. One who's helping him will not get that disease. But then AIDS is one kind of an infectious disease, although the modes of transmission are very different from the common cold. So the infectious diseases can be transmitted from one to another. Non-infectious diseases cannot be transmitted from one to another. Now, these infectious diseases, since they can be transmitted from one to another, there must be something which is transmitted, and that something is known as pathogen. That disease causing organism, that disease causing organism is called as pathogen. So what's pathogen? The organism which causes disease. There can be many, many, many types of pathogens. The most common ones will be bacteria, protozoa, fungi, viruses, helminths, etc., etc., etc. But mostly we are going to do these only. So there may be bacteria, there may be protozoa, there may be fungi, there may be viruses, there may be helminths. You have done helminth groups or phyla in your class 11, that is platyhelminths and nematohelminths. So some of the members of those phyla, they cause diseases in human beings, so they are called as helminths. Now, how do these pathogens enter our body? There may be various modes of these pathogens entering our body. They may enter through mouth, they may enter through nose, they may enter through other openings. So they may transfer through food, they may transfer through water, they may transfer through air. So there are various ways by which they will enter our body, and they will result in some changes in the body, both morphological changes also and functional changes also. Now these pathogens, the first types which we are going to study are the bacteria. The bacteria which cause disease in our, we are going to study them first. The first disease which we are going to study is typhoid. So typhoid is a bacterial disease. It is caused by a bacterium, Salmonella typhi. So you already know how to write the scientific names. This is the genus, this is the species. First letter is capital, first letter is small. Both of them are underlined separately. So the bacterium which causes a typhoid is Salmonella typhi. Now this word bacteria is a plural and bacterium is the singular for it. So this Salmonella typhi is a pathogenic bacterium. It causes the disease typhoid, and the mode of entry is generally through food or through water, and it reaches your gut. It reaches the gut, that is the alimentary canal, and more specifically the intestine of the patient. So through the contaminated food or water, this enters into our gut and it reaches the intestine of the patient, and then it causes whatever it has to cause. The first main symptom here is high fever, and the type of fever which we have here is more than 39 degrees to 40 degrees Celsius, and it is sustained high fever. That is, it doesn't come down or high, like always it remains towards the higher side of the, so it doesn't have a cyclic pattern, it remains high only. And then patient suffers lots of weakness, and then some colic pain, that is this pain in the intestine, pain in the stomach, then constipation, then maybe some headache, some nausea, etc., etc., and total loss of appetite. Patient doesn't want to eat anything in this. So there is loss of appetite in this, and in the very crucial or critical stages, there may be perforations, that is holes or some kind of holes in intestine, which will be fatal stage. So this stage when it reaches is fatal, but that's very rarely nowadays because we will be able to cure it much before. And there is one test by which we can confirm whether there is the, if a person is having a very high fever since few days, then the doctors will suggest a test, a diagnostic test, which is known as the Vidal test. So the Vidal test is the diagnostic test for typhoid. So if we see a diagnostic report and it says that Vidal is positive, that means the patient is suffering from typhoid. Now, there is a very interesting story about a lady called as Mary Mallon. She was commonly called as Typhoid Mary. It's not a very happy story though, but this lady was a cook by profession, and she used to cook at some place, and many people used to eat there, and suddenly many of them started falling sick, and they had typhoid, and there was no symptom, and no source was being traced, like how so many people are getting typhoid although the food and the water they are taking is good. Later on it was found that this Mary Mallon, she was the carrier, but she herself was not suffering from the typhoid. She was the carrier of the typhoid bacteria, but she was spreading it, but she herself was not showing the symptoms. So she caused infection to many people. So she was later called as Typhoid Mary. So this is one bacterial disease which you have to do, that is the typhoid. Again, it has high fever, it is caused by food and water, it is caused by Salmonella typhi. Now we come to the second bacterial disease which you have to study, and that is pneumonia. Second bacterial disease that you have to study, and that is known as pneumonia. Now, this also is a bacterial disease, and it is caused by Streptococcus pneumoniae. This is caused by the bacterium Streptococcus pneumoniae, and also by Haemophilus influenzae. Haemophilus influenzae. So this pneumonia is caused by Streptococcus pneumoniae. Since you know that it is the coccus bacteria, the bacteria must be spherical in nature. You've done that in class 12, that bacillus are the rod-like bacteria and coccus are the ball-like bacteria. So this is Streptococcus pneumoniae, also by Haemophilus influenzae. Now this, in pneumonia, the lower parts of the respiratory system, the lower parts of the respiratory system are infected. Like in common cold, the upper respiratory tract is infected, the throat may be infected and all, but here it reaches to the alveoli of the lungs also. So generally the alveoli are affected. The infection reaches the alveoli. It leads to collection of some fluid in the alveoli, and therefore there is difficulty in breathing. The patient finds difficulty in breathing. So it happens into the lower parts of the respiratory system, and again here the symptoms are fever, chills, fever, chills, cough of course, headache, and sometimes the oxygen level, since the alveoli are infected and there's lots of fluid in it, the oxygen level which the blood is having is not up to the mark. So what happens is that there are certain bluish color indicators at the tips of the nails and the fingers because of the less oxygen in the blood. So how does this spread? This spreads if a healthy person breathes through the air which already an infected person has breathed out. So that means that is known as the droplet infection or the aerosol infection. That is when a person who is suffering from pneumonia breathes out or sneezes or coughs, then some droplets are released in the air, and if we breathe through that, of course we'll get infected. But that's not the only way to get infected. By sharing certain articles like maybe glasses or utensils, again the infection may be transmitted from one person to another person. So these are the two bacterial diseases in your course which you have to do with the symptoms. But you must know there are other bacterial diseases also. For example, dysentery, plague, and diphtheria. These three diseases, you just have to remember that they are also caused by bacteria. You must have heard about a vaccine given to children. You all must have also got it, DPT. So, where D stands for diphtheria, P stands for pertussis, that is the whooping cough, kali khasi, whooping cough. When the child coughs, in pertussis, during the cough, there is a whoop, a sound comes out before the cough. So that's why it's known as pertussis or the whooping cough. And the last one is the tetanus. So these are the bacterial diseases which you have to do. So two of the diseases, typhoid and pneumonia, and other three you remember that dysentery, plague, and diphtheria are also the bacterial diseases. Then viruses. Oh, they cause so many diseases in human beings. Of course, let's talk about the common ones now. The most common viral disease which we all have suffered sometime or the other is the common cold. That is the common cold. And the viruses which cause common cold belong to the family of rhinoviruses. They belong to the family of rhinoviruses. It's a group of viruses which causes common cold. I've already told you it's unlike pneumonia that the common cold, it infects your upper respiratory tract. So you may get sore throat, hoarseness and voice, and then nasal blockage, and all a cough and headache, but it doesn't generally infect the lower parts of the respiratory system. And within about a week, because the cycle stands for 3 to 7 days, you'll get okay with it. And again, it spreads with the droplet infection only. So again, passes from one person to another through the droplet infection or through sharing of the articles by a healthy person and a diseased person. But one thing we'll do some viral diseases later on also, because we have to do AIDS also. AIDS is another viral disease. But you must remember that it is very, very difficult to cure a viral disease. Why? Because viruses do not have their own system of metabolism. They will enter the host and, just like a terrorist, take over the nucleus of the cells and make the nucleus of the host do whatever they want to do. So right now we do not know how to cure the viral diseases. So the most of the diseases which are not curable right now are the viral diseases only, because viruses outside the host act as the non-living things. So viruses, we are not very sure right now. Only thing we know is we should prevent the infection through viruses. So next what we will do is, in the next video, we'll do the protozoans.